it's Chef Robin. Today we're going to do Indian cuisine. We're going to do naan bread, cilantro mint chutney, and Chana masala. And as an extra bonus, the Cicerone from Zipline Brewery here in Lincoln has paired some beers to go along with the dishes that we're going to make. So looking forward to that. And we'll have those at the end when we taste our dishes. So let's get going. First thing up, naan bread. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add 1.5 cups of warm water into a bowl. We're going to add a tablespoon worth of sugar and then 2 teaspoons worth of yeast. I'm going to kind of stir that up and then I'm going to add that yeast on top because I want you to see when it activates. You'll actually know when the yeast is ready by the way that it foams on the top. So I kind of want to let that be there by itself. Usually takes about 5 minutes, but I like to get the double active yeast because it goes about twice as fast. So we can kind of let it hang out for a few minutes and we're going to see this start to foam and then we'll know we're ready for the next step. It's been 5 minutes and as you can see, the yeast is now activated. You can see that it's nice and foamy. That's what you're looking for. So next thing we're going to add is a teaspoon of salt and 3 cups of flour. So you just want to stir that up and then we're going to actually put that on a floured surface and then you're going to want to knead it. My magical number is 20 times, so just till it doesn't stick. So as soon as we kind of get this mixed up, we'll start kneading away. So we've dumped it out onto our floured surface and now we need to knead 20 times until the dough doesn't stick to your hand. I've kneaded this 20 times and as you can see, it doesn't stick to my hands. That's what you're looking for. That's what you want. All right, so I've got a nice bowl here and I'm gonna just drizzle a little bit of olive oil in it. I'm gonna roll that dough into the bowl and let it rest about 30 minutes so it can relax before we do the next step. And I like to wrap it with a little damp towel just so it doesn't dry out on top of it. It's been 30 minutes, so time to divide our naan dough up into 8 pieces, start rolling it out and get it made. All right, so I'm going to cut this in half, cut it in half again, and cut each of those in half again. Make it into 8 pieces. And then we're gonna roll each of those out to about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. We want it nice and thin because the way you can tell your naan bread is ready to turn and is cooked on the first side is by seeing those bubbles kind of pull forward. And you can't do that if you have too thick of pieces of dough. The other thing is don't add too much flour. If you do, you're gonna burn that flour when you cook it. So try at first to roll it out without any flour, and then if you need flour, add it in after that. So I'm gonna try with no flour and see how it goes. And that one looks pretty good. All right, I got a cast iron pan, nice and hot. I'm gonna add this first piece of naan into the pan, let it cook, and you're gonna see that the bubbles start pulling up, and that's gonna let you know when to flip. So can you see the bubbles that are starting to form on this side of the naan bread? It's kind of letting you know it's ready to flip. So that's what you're looking for, those nice bubbles to kind of let you know that you need to go ahead and flip it. Beautiful. We're gonna let it hang out for another minute. I don't have oil in the pan. Usually with naan bread, you don't need any. So we're not using any. All right, last one. So we're gonna take this off, add it to our tray. Sweet, we have 8 pieces of naan bread. So first thing done, check it off. Next up, cilantro mint chutney. So the nice thing about cilantro mint chutney is everything just goes into a blender, food processor, whatever you got. 2 cups of cilantro. I love cilantro, so for my recipe, I have more cilantro than mint. So if you don't, you might want to add a little extra mint and a little less cilantro. So I am going to add 1 cup of mint into that blender. 1 small onion, just kind of roughly chopped, just throw it in. And then we're gonna add just half a teaspoon of sugar, half a teaspoon of cumin, 1 clove of garlic, all right, 2 tablespoons of lemon. Each half of a lemon is usually a tablespoon. I've mentioned that before, so we're gonna add both halves in. 1 tablespoon, woo! And the other. There we go. 1.5 teaspoons of salt. In it goes. So I say in the recipe you can use serrano or jalapeno. The heat unit of serrano is 20,000. The heat unit of a jalapeno max is 10,000. So I'm actually going to use a jalapeno for this one, but if you want to have a little extra heat, you can do the other, and it works really well. So I cut both sides of the jalapeno off. I'm actually going to cut down the center, open it up, and then all you need to do to de-seed it, because that's the heat of the jalapeno is that seed in the rib, is pull it through with a spoon. And clean it out. Skin side down once we're gonna start chopping it. All right, there we go. And then rolling through. Remembering that it's gonna go in the blender so you don't have to do much more than just a little chop. And it goes. 1/3 of a cup of yogurt with this. I like to use Greek yogurt, it's a little bit thicker. Once we blend this together, if you find it a little thick, you can add a little water to it just to kind of make it a little bit runnier, whatever you like. Okay, blending it up. So we're just kind of gonna let this blend until it's nice and creamy, and then it is done. Turn up a little bit. So this is the consistency that I like. So definitely you can do it however you like, but this is how I like it to be. So we are done. Number 2 recipe, check it off. Last recipe, the Chana Masala, before we get to have a little beer pairing. So first thing we're gonna do is cut our onion. I've had a lot of people ask how to cut an onion, so I'm gonna show you what to do. Obviously gripping 3 fingers and then pinching. With the onion, you wanna make sure that you are cutting the top off of the onion and leaving the root intact. So we're gonna cut it off, turn it upside down, do what we call a tunnel, cutting through. As chefs, we usually take 3 layers off because the first few layers are nice and dehydrated. We don't want to use that. There's so much flavor in it. I'm gonna pull 3, actually 1, 2, and you can see the 3rd layer right there. All right. So now the onion kind of lets you know what it wants you to do. You can see the lines going through the onion. We're actually going to score through that, but not all the way to the root. Now one sideways. Here we go. Tip blade doesn't leave the cutting board, and just cut right through. So the onion is chopped. We're going to add it into about a tablespoon of olive oil. Anytime you add anything in though, make sure you're turning your knife upside down so you don't ruin your blade, and scraping it in with the back side of your knife. We're going to cook that onion till it's nice and translucent before we add anything else in. So our onion is nice and translucent, so we're ready to build on this nice Chana Masala. I have 3 cloves of garlic that I have pressed. We're going to add that in now. We wouldn't have wanted to add that in earlier because it would have become bitter. It takes less time to cook, so we want to add that in after the onion is already nice and translucent. I've drained and rinsed 2 cans of chickpeas, so that's going in next. We're gonna add 2 teaspoons of garam masala. And garam masala is just a mixture of nice Indian spices, my favorite. So we're gonna add that in. Now, we want about 1 tablespoon worth of lemon juice, so that's a half of a lemon. So we're gonna press that in. Half a teaspoon of turmeric. Add that in. Okay, now you guys gotta, I'm gonna show you another skill, and that is how to cut a tomato. So you want, I say in the recipe 2 large tomatoes. My tomatoes are very large, so I'm using 3 smaller tomatoes. When you cut a tomato to put into a dish, you cut that bottom off so you've got a sturdy side, and you actually go through and pull just the nice part of the tomato off and leave that bitter part out. So this is the part that people don't like. So you want to keep it out and then skin side down and chop right through. So again, cut that bottom off, turn it, and then just score right through to get the beautiful part of the tomato and leave that bitter part out. So I added that tomato into the pot or the pan, and next thing you want to do is add about 2 teaspoons worth of ginger. Anytime you're peeling ginger, you want to use a spoon, and the easiest way to peel the ginger is just with a spoon, just pour it through. Much easier than a vegetable peeler. And then we're going to grate it. If you have any extra and you want to freeze it, you want to make sure that you actually grate it first before you put it in the freezer, otherwise it fills with water and it's too soggy to actually use later on. So make sure that you grate it all first. Okay, here we go. Cut this little tip off. 2 teaspoons grated. So next thing is we're just going to add about 1/4 cup of water, and we're going to let that simmer for about 10 minutes until it kind of becomes stew-like. And then it's done, except for we're gonna add a little cilantro and salt in at the very end. It's been cooking for about 10 minutes, so it's definitely becoming more stew-like. That's what we want. So now we're gonna add about 1/4 cup of cilantro in, and then add a little salt. And then we're ready for dinner and a little beer. So we're ready to enjoy our first dish, which is our naan bread with our cilantro mint chutney. And Craig, the sister-owned from Zipline, has paired it with local thyme. It is a low-carb, low-cal beer lager. He has paired that because it has an Amarillo hop, and it also has a bready malt flavor to it, and has become one of their most favorite beers at their brewery. So let's try it out. Okay, first of all, love it. Now I'm going to taste a little bit of the naan with it. Excellent. Love it. Great pairing, Craig. Next up, Chana Masala. The one that Craig, the sister-owned Zipline, paired for this is their IPA. One of my favorites, have to say. And the reason he paired this with the Chana Masala is it's nice and it has a lot of hops. It has a lot of malt, which really works well with anything that's nice and bold and spicy. And it also has a lot of citrus notes, which kind of complements the flavor of the Chana Masala. So I'm really excited about this. I know I'm gonna love it. So here we go. So I'm actually gonna taste my Chana Masala first. It really goes well. So this is really fun for you guys. Something you guys can do, something different, pairing with beers. So go grab yourself a few Zipline beers. These are perfect to pair with these dishes. Hopefully you're gonna make them. Shout out to Craig, the sister on a Zipline. Thank you so much for the beer. And your pairings are excellent. Love them. So cheers. Love you guys. Hope you guys will make it. Hope you guys will get some of the Zipline beer.